Hey everyone, Kevin here, and welcome back to my channel. So, as an instructional designer, you probably wouldn't be all that surprised with how often I discuss course design with people, since, it's kind of integral to what we do. But every now and then, those conversations identify things which actively make our trainings worse, and I wanted to highlight just one of those today. Pop-ups. It seems like every course I see these days is being designed with constant pop-ups to the point that it's actively annoying our learners and making them disengage from the content. I really noticed this most recently when I was completing my yearly compliance training, which, yes, admittedly is something that most people would say is stereotypically boring and uninteresting, but even compliance training can be made relevant and engaging when you put your mind to it. But that's not really what's happening anymore. Instead of making compliance training in house, many companies contract that out to other agencies who end up churning out very low quality work like this that they can then package together and sell in a bundle to different companies. This content is often very cheap and lazily made, which is why we end up with these next button pop up heavy courses that professional IDs have to either fix or throw away entirely to make something better. To give an example of this pop up problem, one of those compliance trainings that I had to do was 116 slides long, which is already a massive no no from a design standpoint. That is way too long and should have been broken up into multiple different subcourses, but I digress. The issue was that every time I clicked the next button, I'd get a pop up with additional information that I would have to completely read through before being able to close that window. I would then have to click the next button again to move forward. The problem here is that once someone has completed a slide, their brain has already moved on to the next item. Shoehorning in pop ups like this makes learners feel like we're forcing them to turn around and go backwards a step in the training rather than moving forward. Frankly, it's just really poor design, which is why that training actually became 232 slides long with those pop ups, which is even more ridiculous. Clearly, the ID did this to, I don't know, trim down the content, but they did it in the worst and, again, arguably laziest way possible. Just because the cost of compliance training needs to be kept on the lower end doesn't mean you have to build it in a way that is genuinely annoying. I mean, how do you feel if you click onto a web page and get a dozen pop-ups or constantly get asked if you want to accept the website's cookies before you can do anything on the page? It's really annoying and actively frustrates people who are trying to use your platform. And training is no different in that regard. Adding pop-ups like this only serves to increase information load and forces you to click the same buttons multiple times, thus ensuring that learners will disengage rather than take the training seriously. It ultimately leads to learners clicking through all courses that way and thinking that training is pointless in the long run. And I can attest to actively disengaging from the training I was taking for that same reason. I ended up rapidly clicking through as much as possible of that course rather than reading it carefully and learning or relearning what I needed to for the year. I can tell you right now that I don't remember a single thing from that training because I was so fed up with it and wanted to just be done with it. And that is not the result you want from any training. IDs should solve training problems, not create them. A lot of IDs instead fall into the trap of, well, it's compliance training. No one's going to enjoy this anyway, and thus put in the absolute minimum amount of effort, which is also why the issue boils down to this. Pop-ups aren't inherently interactivity. IDs who make very long trainings with loads of pop-ups like this are often trying to sprinkle in at least some level of interactivity to break to the monotony, and the compliance team or stakeholders really liked it, so they ended up asking for more of them to the point that the entire course just became that. Hell, you can put pop-ups in as information bubbles, and that's not intrusive because then learners are at least actually doing something by clicking through them, and you save time by having fewer slides then too. Why not design trainings with multiple slide layers and storyline instead? I could have easily shrunk that compliance training down from what amounted to 232 slides of information with the constant pop-ups down to maybe 20 slides by using better interactives and slide layers, which should have been diversified and made to look totally different, thus giving learners a more engaging and interesting experience. And I'll tell you why this doesn't happen. Most people frame education and professional development as a whole through traditional ILTs and PowerPoint presentations without understanding what courses can be like if proper time is invested into the design and development of them. You have no idea how often I've had to fight and stand up to SMEs who argue they want things one certain way when I know that's not what's best for learners. It can be tough, but I win those arguments more often than not. And when I come back with the completed training for their review, I frequently get the response of, "Oh wow, this looks great." Because again, they haven't worked with real L&D professionals who can be more creative with the content they're given and make better use of the tools on top of all of that. Oh, and to add one more thing here since it's relevant, flooding your trainings with pop-ups every slide is also incredibly bad for those with accessibility challenges, such as those with ADHD who struggle to focus with long-form content. Storyline, which is used for most compliance training anyway, is already an accessibility nightmare from a development standpoint as it is, and all you're doing is making that worse. But look, I get it. Pop-ups are kind of trendy in e-learning these days, and it's easy to add them in when you have a lot of dense content to get through. But here's the hard thing you need to understand. That's also your job to figure out. IDs, by definition, have to communicate really broad and jargon-heavy content to learners in simple and digestible ways, which pop-ups rarely do. They aren't interactive, they're distracting and frustrating to manage, especially when used in excess. And as a rule, whenever you're creating content, learners should always be able to answer the questions, what's in it for me? And what do I get out of this training? If they can't readily do that, then the course is badly designed. And even worse, the training ends up being pointless if it's just treated as a way to check a box and satisfy the need for a solution to the problem rather than the solution which effectively does solve the problem. Pop-ups aren't inherently bad, but they've begun to be used as a crutch in course design and development by L&D professionals these days, and it's actively harming the quality of the content we create. So when you're designing training, ask yourself what would work best here, rather than what would just be simplest. It'll make you a much better instructional designer. Believe me. Well guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please consider liking, commenting, or even better, subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet done so. That way you'll get notified whenever I post more awesome content just for you. And for now, I've been Kevin, and I will see you in the next video.